the first time I went to South Africa and I introduced myself and said my name is Malaika, and they're like, "Oh, your name is Malaika, but you sound American." I was like, "I am American." I can say thank you in 61. I think I'm up to 61 languages now.
What do you really do?
So I created an intentional framework for living that I call the momentology method.
Momentology.
Yes.
What does that mean? So tell me something, Malaika. Where are you originally from? Because now you have a Swahili name that make you very African now, right?
Right, right. I was born in the U.S., born in Cleveland, so very much American. And it's funny, the first time I went to South Africa and I introduced myself and said my name is Malaika, and they're like, "Oh, your name is Malaika, but you sound American." I was like, "I am American." You're like, "But how
You look like my sister. But are you my sister?
right? How?" And in South Africa, they call you sissy and hey sister,
Mhm.
and it's so funny because they're like, "I'm confused. You have a name Malaika, but you sound American," and I had to explain that there are lots of folks named with African names in the 60s and 70s in America. That's just kind of how it works out.
All right, that's good. That is, we call it reappropriating your heritage,
There you
no?
go. There you go. 100%.
And we are very proud of that, no?
Very
Yeah,
proud.
I remember, for example, when my son was born, with my wife, we were talking about the name. I said, I'm going to give my name, my son, a name from my culture, which is Efwa. Efwa is the name of my son.
Mhm.
Efwa in my language, which is Esan, south of Nigeria, means light.
Oh, nice.
Uh, Now, of course, that become a kind of a contrast between me and my son now, and our culture, our heritage, everything about it. Because when my son grows up now, he need to explain what that name means. But he's not going to say that my father got it from Wikipedia or he went and read it in the book. No, he know what it means because that name connect him to his ancestry, to where he's coming from.
Right.
So even without ever doing any other thing, he know where he is coming from. You get it? And so we are reappropriating our culture, our history, our heritage, where we are coming from. And we don't even need any permission from anybody to do that. We know who we are. That
Yeah.
is important for us.
Yes. I
All right.
agree.
Thank you. So while we are still there, Malaika, is there anything you would like to tell me about you growing up that I don't know, anything about your infancy that we can sort of pick on?
That's a n- so since I was a little kid, I have loved languages. Love languages. I can say thank you in 61. I think I'm up to 61 languages now. Um,
61. How do
yeah.
you do that?
I don't know. It's something that it started off as just something, like I said, when I was little, I just used to, every time I met someone who spoke another language, I would ask them how to say something, and it became thank you somehow. And I realized over time that something about gratitude, right? The ability to express gratitude to someone in the language they heard in the womb. That I think there's something so very heart centered about that I just kept on going. And so yeah, I'm up to like 61, I think now.
Wow, that is interesting. I've never met somebody who spoke 61 languages.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
How do you
technically,
do?
I don't speak all of them fluently, but I can say one word at least. And I figured if I'm going to learn just one word, thank you is a
Mhm.
great word to learn. So I can say thank you in actually, so I can say Madase. Madase is thank you in Twi, which is spoken in Ghana. Um, I can say Dalu, which is thank you in Nigeria. I'm sorry, I always confuse, sorry, Yoruba and Igbo, but I can say Dalo, I can say Dalu, I can say Edupe. Uh, yeah,
That's interesting. That's interesting. And again, I think the conversation of today is around the reappropriation of our heritage, because I just love that.
Thank you.
In the Classics Academy, where of course we have a different expert coming around now from the African diaspora to teach their heritage, to teach their history to their people, because now you come around to share what you know. So this aspect of our culture is particularly important, because now you have taken your time to be able to learn how to say things in 61 different languages.
Yeah.
Now you leave that for other people to inherit also from you. That is fascinating.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah. I try to get my kids, my daughters can speak French.
Hmm.
My son speaks Japanese a little bit. So my kids, maybe they kind of got it from me. They picked up at least an affinity for learning language and culture. So I think it's really important. We're not on this planet alone, right? Um, and so being able to see things from another person's point of view means sharing the language, food, culture, that sort of thing. So I've always been very open to sharing and learning from other people. And I think, saying thank you is probably just the beginning of that.
And if I may ask, is there a reason for that? Is there like a deeper reason for that? Because now I can understand you know how to say two or three things, yeah, or say something in two or three languages. That is one thing. But for 61, there must have been an intentionality about that. So tell me about that. I'm interested.
Yes, it is very intentional now. It didn't start out that way. Like I said, I just love languages. So every time someone I heard someone speak another language, I was like, "Oh, how do you say?" And it became thank you. And then I realized that it was something really powerful, right, about expressing gratitude. And so I decided that I never want to meet anyone on the planet that I can't say thank you to in the most heart-centered way. And that's by saying it in their own language. So now it's kind of like I'm on a mission. I don't know how many languages I'll wound up with, but every time I meet someone and I don't know how to say thank you in their language, I ask them. And then it is very intentional because I practice, and I get some of them mixed up, and some of them are very close, right? So shukran and shukriya is very close. Thank you. I can say in Urdu and Tamil and Hindu. So it takes some work, right? But I don't think of it as work because it's really fun to me. It's really interesting to learn these languages.
All right. How about we make it 62 language now?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you how to say thank you in Esa.
Okay.
Esa is in south of Nigeria.
Okay.
It's yeah, okay, and it's from the state called Edo,
Okay.
Edo State. So in Esa, we will say Obulu. That is thank you in Esa language.
Yes.
Obulu.
You told me that last time, so I had that was the 61st.
Okay, okay, that's good.
Obula was on 61st. So I was on 60 until you told me that. So now I'm on 61.
All right, that's great. That's great. That's lovely. That's lovely. That is lovely.
Yeah.
All right, now, Malaika,
Yes.
tell us something. Now, when people understand that you are able to speak, you have this multigenous language. Of course, in Africa, we always have multigenous, no?
Mhm.
So, what do you really do? Tell us about that. Tell us more about that.
Thank you. So I developed an intentional framework, and it's interesting that you said that the learning of the language is very intentional. I definitely believe in setting intention and living by intention. So I created an intentional framework for living that I call the momentology method. Momentology is a little bit what it sounds like, right? The study of the moment, but it's the study and the practice of operating in the now. And the reason why I put an emphasis on practice is because we can think about things all day long, but what sort of action do we actually put behind those thoughts and those beliefs? And so I believe that if you live your life with a certain level of awareness, gratitude, and expectance for a brighter future, then you can live what I call a momentous life. And so I use that methodology. I've done a TED talk on it years ago. I teach and train, and I run workshops on how to live in a way that is not just searching, because we're always looking for something that's external to us. We all have abilities and capabilities that are within our grasp if we just look at it a little bit differently.
All right, that's interesting. Momentology. That's interesting. Okay. So, can you break that down for us for the amateur people that are just average? They probably are hearing that for the first time.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, momentology, there are three major pillars. The first is awareness, the second is gratitude, hence the thank you in 61 languages. And the last is expectance. And so, I, I believe that if you are constantly in a state of awareness, a state of gratitude, and a state of expectance, particularly positive expectance, that you will find that the things that you thought were impossible are not so impossible, right? So, awareness, the first one is that there's more to life, there's more to be. You can't address a thing that you don't first acknowledge, right? And so, if you want to do greater things, you want to be, have, or do anything in the world, you have to first acknowledge that you're on a journey. Like there are actions that'll be necessary. You don't have to know what those actions are, but you just have to come into an agreement that, okay, I want a thing, I know what I want, and I'm going to go for that thing. The second pillar is gratitude. And gratitude is really important because it's not just saying thank you, which is great because I can say it in 61 languages. It's not just saying thank you, it's a feeling of counting your blessings. Why do we call it counting your blessings? We're taking inventory of the things that we already have. So often we want something, we desire something. It, that's really, desires are really a state of lack. It's saying like, I don't have, so I need, right? When you actually, in actuality, you really have more than you think you do. So understanding that being grateful for what you currently have is the first step in you getting more of what you want. And then lastly, it's expectance, specifically positive expectance. Positive expectance is you are in control of your life. It doesn't seem like it. I know. There are things you can't control, but of the things that you can control, it's you. You control your attitude, your thoughts, and your beliefs. And so once you realize that and you take 100% accountability for your own actions and your own self, you're able to move forward.
Thank you so much for that. Um, Again, I'm going to go back to the intentionality. Uh, where did this idea came from? Why did you decide to create methodology? Can you tell us about the idea behind it? Where did it come from?
Yes, it wasn't ironically enough, I didn't set about with an intention that I'm going to create a new thing in the world, right? That's not how it happened. It was very organic. It came out of me striving for more, right? I was in corporate, doing all the things I was starting a company, like all of these things that I wanted to do. I've never, it sounds a little strange, but I've never actually failed at anything. And what I mean by that is that there are things that haven't happened for me. There are things that have been disappointing in my life. We all have disappointments, but I've always had a measure of understanding that this was only a step in a longer journey. And so when I started to think about why I thought that way, and I'm an award winning consultant. My projects win awards. My teams win awards, and it's because I look at things, I think, a little bit differently. And I'm a voracious note taker. I have notebooks going back 20 some years. And I started looking through these notebooks and I was noticing a particular pattern. And I didn't call it momentology at first, but it was just a way of doing things that I noticed that I was working with my clients, with my staff, and others. And I'm like, oh wow, that this is a thing. And so when I wrote my first book, I called it the Momentology Manifesto. And I realized that this is the way I've been operating. This is how I do the things that people think are impossible or at least unlikely, is because I have a framework that I intentionally stick to. And that's how these things work out.
All right. Now, I want also examine a situation. Let's look at the people that are listening to this podcast now, who are founder, business owner. They are listening to you. Okay, let's say they are in front of you now. They want to learn how they can apply this methodology in their business. I don't know if those are the people that you are targeting, but let's assume they are the people that you are targeting. Now, you need to speak to them how to apply it. what would you say to them? Teach them how to use methodology in their business.
Yeah, so momentology is the study and practice of operating in the now. So, what does that mean? That means that there are lots of things you can do, right? There are lots of things you could concentrate on, and sometimes as small business owners, managers, director level, we have so many things that we get distracted by the volume. Like, right, it's just too much. Um, when in actuality, if you have a framework, and I believe that culture within an organization is built on separate human operating systems. And what I mean by that is we're all human. We all come with our own preconceived notions and beliefs and so forth, and then we're set into these larger structures, which is the organization. So how do you take these individual people and have them work together to a solid mission, right? And the one way to do that is to focus on the values that are aligned, the values that either come from the organization itself, or even uncovering what those individual values are and how they are compatible with the mission at hand. If you are a small business owner and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, first things first, what we're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid, what if I do the wrong thing? And honestly, there aren't really mistakes. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but there are things that happen and you don't like the results. Don't do that again. Right? Find another way. So you do a thing with the information that you have at hand, with the people that you have on hand, with the knowledge that you have. You make a decision and you move forward. And then you make another decision and you move forward. So it's a series of decision making based on the most available information and resources that you have at that time, and you course correct. And if we stop seeing things as like fail on a fail, it's going to, it's fatal. Not all mistakes are fatal. They're teaching you the wrong way to go. Okay, that's not the path I need to take. I need to turn left instead of turning right. And so if we start to have a bit of discernment about how we move based on our own intention, and discernment means that, hey, I know that I believe I have these particular values, I have this particular mission. I'm going to honor that in my decision making. We'll find that the things that come up for us are more beneficial than not. And again, nothing happens overnight, but these are things that happen as we start to be aware. The first key is awareness, aware of what we want, aware of what we have, and then aware of where we're going with our decisions.
Okay. Anyway, I'm the one that brought out this particular demographic to your conversation for examining just now when I made mention of the diaspora. Of course, by whoever listening here, understand that that is our target audience. No, it's very clear for us. Otherwise, you will be seeing everybody here, but this is not for everybody. All right. Now, when you were crafting this framework, who did you had in mind? Tell us about how you find your target audience that this is not working for them because it was designed for them. Tell us something about that.
Yes. So I think we're usually our own prototypes, right? And so I was pretty much my starting prototype of Black woman in America, trying to do all the things. I'm a mother, a wife, a sister. We have all these hats that we wear as Black women, and I was often in rooms full of people who didn't look like me, who didn't share my same lived experience. And I was always excelling, whether it's because it was an internal notion that I needed to be better, do more all the time, or if I felt the pressure from being the only one in the room, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And so I think that I started to create these infrastructures for myself that allowed me to feel very authentic in the spaces that I was taking up, where I did not feel like I was shrinking Um, like I have I wear my hair naturally. I didn't always, right? I have curly hair. I show up as me in all the spaces where I am, and that was not immediate, but it became something that I was very proud. I'm very proud of who I am. And you mentioned earlier about naming your son. I'm very proud of who I came from, my family and my lineage. I come from a family of teachers. We've been teaching in this country for over 200 years. We traced our family back to 1785. This is something that is legacy for me, and so I'm very proud of that, and I have no reason to hide it. So I started showing up in my fullness of who I am and what I had to offer the world, and so that's why I call everyone world changers, because I do believe that we all have the possibility and the capability of changing worlds for the people that we care about.
Lovely, lovely. And talking about change, um, what do you want to change in the life of the people that you are serving?
I want them to be fully cognizant, fully aware that they have everything that they absolutely need to move forward. Now, yes, you can get another degree and another certificate and another whatever the thing is, fill in the blank, but that doesn't define you. I mean, I'm a doctoral student. I'm pursuing my PhD in international psychology. I'm not against furthering your education, but I'm not doing it for the piece of paper. And I'm not doing it because someone else thought that it's a good idea. I'm doing it because it lights me up. It's the thing that I want to do in the world, and it's allowing me to reach women around the world in the African diaspora that maybe have a feeling like there's too much. They're struggling with exhaustion. Part of my dissertation is I've developed or I've uncovered a phenomenon that I call extraction fatigue. And that's this weariness that many people feel, specifically women who decide or call themselves servant leaders, that they're just doing so much for so many people all the time. And that becomes sort of the narrative, specifically of Black women in the world, right? That we're the servers, the helpers, the doers, and then we're not pouring back into ourselves. We're not giving ourselves what we need to bloom, and to be nurtured. And so that's the work that I'm doing now, and I absolutely love every moment of it.
All right, all right. And you know what? I think somebody want to explore that extraction fatigue a little bit more. I don't know if there is anything that you can share with us, any story or any case study, whether of your client, of you personally, to help people relate more. Because I think that is a black box that need to be unveiled.
Yeah, so for example, I had a client who came to me and she was exhausted, right? She's like, there's so much I still want to do in the world, and I feel like I have the capability. Like I can do, but I don't know if the spirit in me is can keep going the way that it's going, right? And so we started off by doing an assessment, and I've developed a personal sort of like a leadership assessment on how it is that you show up as a leader in the world. And I base it on personas. I am a human-centered design strategist, so like persona building is my thing. So I base it on some archetypes and some personas, and we say, okay, this is how you're showing up, because this is what you're focusing on. It has nothing to do with your capability. You are capable of all sorts of things, but what you're focusing on is here, and what your spirit is calling you to focus on is over here. So then how do we bridge that gap? And so the work that we did was to help her move from operating in one particular way to focusing on something else. And she's like, she immediately started getting client offers that felt good to her. It wasn't that she didn't have clients before, right? She did, but it was draining. It was draining because it was pulling on a piece of her that she had no space for, versus working from a place where she is in overflow. And so that's the distinction between extraction fatigue and not. Is extraction fatigue is what happens before complete burnout. It's like you're so tired because you're giving, 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 and you're being extracted from in all these places that don't light you up. It doesn't feel like extraction when you are giving and putting effort into something that's aligned to who you want to be and what you want to do in the world. So that's where I work with clients to help them pivot, to change, to tweak a few things so that they're only focused on what drives them forward and what lights them up and what lifts them up and not what holds them down.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. You see, as you were talking, a few keyword was actually hammering on my ear, and they were pretty very interesting. You made mention of the word alignment. Then you also went on to say something to the effect that so what it appeared to me is not like you are against the idea that people work very hard or do a lot, but there is something between working hard and just working hard for something that is not really pulling you forward, something that is draining you. That is going to be very damaging for people. Because the idea is not that you should work hard. The idea is not whether or not you should work hard. Is what are you working hard for? Is it pulling you down or is uplifting you? So in line with that, I think I want us to spend a few seconds on alignment. You know, you are going to do something, but that thing that you are doing, where is it leading you to? So how important is that to your framework, the momentology? Tell us something more about that.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it. You are either doing things that lift you up or pull you down, right? And so the difference is not to stop working, is not to stop working hard. Um, it is to stop working at things that are subtracting from you and start working on things that add to you. And so I always say that in humans only do two things: what we get to do and what we have to do. And the difference in the reframe of that is, do I get to do something, which means I'm joyous about it, or do I have to do it, which means it's an obligation? And if we start to be aware of when we are feeling like we are doing something out of obligation versus when we are doing something out of joy, we can start to then pivot and change the way that we do things, or at least the way that we see it, right? Because okay, you have to pay bills, your mortgage, your car payment, whatever it is. You have to take care of your kids. You kind of have to feed them. You know, they frown upon you not feeding your children. So there are things that you do have to do. But when you start to realize that there are different ways of looking at the things that you do, and you can change and pivot your energy around that, it just feels so different. And everything that I teach and talk about is sort of, the foundation is somatic. It's in your body. Like, how do you feel? And so even as we're talking now, I'll drop my shoulders, or sometimes you'll feel like you're working on something, for example, and you don't even realize that you're hunched up, you're clenched up, and the stress is in your neck. Then when something happens that feels good, all of a sudden you relax your shoulders. So we are always acting and reacting to our environment. It's just being aware of when we're putting ourselves in situations that pull and make us tight and pull us down versus those things that make us feel like we can take over, do great things in the world.
I love that. I love that. It's happening all around us. It just, are we paying attention? Because if we don't pay attention, we don't notice it. And you see, I like also what you said before, that even in that moment of extraction, I remember I was writing, I think it should be like a couple of minutes ago, actually. I was writing a presentation that I'm going to do in coming days. I was saying, if this particular word that you use, extraction, is very fundamental in what we do. So I was making a comparison of not just sharing okay, no, how do I put it? I was talking about the idea that if we don't refine our resources, we're not going to be able to charge premium for it. In the sense that if you just say I have resources, of course everybody know that you have resources, but if you don't refine it, it's never going to serve you. The kind of example that I give here often about it is, you look at gold. If you look at gold in a natural state, it's like every other dust. It's not that shiny, sparkly thing. That shiny, sparkly thing happened after they have been put to the furnace. The furnace, basically burn it. You know, so And then I was making an list and I said, look at countries in Africa, for example, like cotton in Congo. You look at cacao or coffee in Ivory Coast. And you look at crude oil in Nigeria. All these three countries that I've listed, they sell their product very cheap at the international market. Why? Because they haven't refined the product. If you refine the product, this product that these countries have in Africa are very expensive. But if you don't refine it, you will sell it cheap. So the people that buy it cheap from you, they're going to refine it, they will sell it more. So I think developing methodology, being able to refine your skill is fundamentally important. Of course, you will need methodology like this, helping you to move from step A to step B to step C. And the thing that I like about methodology is that when you apply a refined methodology, it becomes even easier for you because now you're not going to be reinventing the wheel all the time. Because now, if somebody just wake you up and say, explain the methodology, you know what it means. Because you'll be doing it for years. You can start from logic to moment. You can even explain it that way too. You can go back and forth. You can even start from the beginning and come to the end and move from the end to the beginning for you because you already know inside out of the method. So I don't know if you want to say something to some other persons who maybe are also doing something like you are doing, but they haven't codified. That is the word that we use here a lot. They haven't codified their process. Therefore, even though they've been doing it for a number of years, sometimes they cannot charge premium for what they are doing because they haven't codified it. I wanted to speak to those people.
I think that's a very good analogy in terms of refinement, right? One of the things that I used to work with my staff on is the ability to systematize the work that they do. Uh, it's a matter of two things. One is making it more digestible to those who you're serving, because you could have a bunch of things all over the place, sort of like what you were saying about the raw materials, right? It's like baking a cake. So you the end product is delicious cake that everyone wants to eat. But when you start off regular flour, right? Some eggs, you may not eat those just by themselves, right? But when you put the flour and the eggs and the sugar and the different things and all the cinnamon and all of that together, even though they may not be things that you would want individually, together and in a system baked at a certain temperature consistently, gives you something that everyone wants and everyone can eat. So it's a similar type of thing where there are things that you currently do wherever you happen to be working right now. What are you doing to be successful? So gratitude is not just saying thank you. Gratitude is inventory. Take inventory of the things that you do that work. Then document those things. Then create a way for you to do them faster, quicker, better than the next person, or in a way that helps the organization. All of a sudden, you'll notice that it's taken up by leadership. It's taken up by management. They want to know more about your process because it's something that they can adopt and adapt. But when the secret sauce is all you and nobody knows how to do it, you think you're being indispensable, right? You're like, well, only I know how to do it. So if they need me, well, not necessarily, right? Because they'll find someone else who maybe doesn't have your secret sauce, but knows how to explain their process a lot better, and more people can benefit from it. And so, to your point, if you can have a raw talent, you can have a raw ability. If you do not refine it or package it in a way that's digestible to other people,
Yeah, fortunately.
and make it digestible and package it up for greater consumption.
Absolutely. Of course, another thing that we also talk about a lot in A Classes Academy and also in this podcast is that we need to know that we are not going to live forever. So we also need to plan for the future that is going to be without us. What are people going to say about us? All this that we are doing today, what is the meaning other than just me consuming it now? Or anyway, we cannot even consume life because we are here, we will transition. So if we are intentional about life, we need to plan for that time where you are not going to be here to explain, but what you have done, we do the explanation. We are talking about legacy. Is that what do you want to leave behind? If you say that everything is just in my head, very soon you will be in the grave. How are the people going to know how to do it if everything is just in your head? But if you develop a methodology now, a system, it means anybody can take that system and work with it. Therefore, your experience in this life have made a huge contribution. Even though you die and you are buried and you are in the grave, people will still remember you because people will use your system. Anytime they use your system, you are alive. You see, it is said in Africa that we don't really die. Why we don't die is because we live in the memory of people. For you to live in the memory of people, you need to do something that will make the people need you. Of course, not need you physically, but need what you have created. Therefore, they will always remember you. You see, there are books that we read today. Okay, if I ask you, what car was Napoleon Hill driving? You probably would even remember. Because, okay, if I ask you, what house was Walter D. Wallace was living, you probably wouldn't remember. But if I make mention of Think and Grow Rich, you will remember. If I make mention of The Science of Getting Rich, you will remember. When we take up those books, we can see the philosophy, the thinking process of this individual. The Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich were written sometime in 1910. That's many years ago. But we can still feel the mind, the thinking process of this individual. Why? Because they have left their process in our hands. Otherwise, because it wasn't Napoleon Hill alone that was living at that time. But how come we don't remember those people anymore? We don't remember them because they have no way of affecting us. They haven't left off anything for us to remember them. Therefore, we cannot just remember somebody in a void. We remember people because of association to other things. And I think this is also one of the benefits of developing a system, because when we develop a system, we can give this system to people, they will operate. We are alive.
No, that's accurate. That's and I don't think I actually, when I first started with momentology, I wasn't thinking about legacy. Honestly, I was really just trying to survive. um, I was just thinking about the immediacy of doing better now, right? Momental in this moment, like how can I survive this moment and then the next and then the next. And then I started to see that it was resonating with specifically women. But I've had male clients too, right? I had men of all different backgrounds, men and women of all different backgrounds. But I specifically speak to women and women, Black women, right? Because that's my identity and that's how I identify. And I can see me in them. I can see where I was in them. And one of the interesting things about what you said is, as servant leading women, we are building legacies. Like everything we're doing is we're doing for our children, we're doing for our families. And so pouring into ourselves and being the best versions of ourselves in this moment is actually of benefit to further uh our generations to come. My I was telling you, my family, we traced our family back to 1785. One of my cousins, who's passed on, but he created a numbering system for our family. And the numbering system is a way for us to trace the family backwards and forward. So I'll give you an example. There are different branches of the family. They each got a number, right? So for me, my family branch starts with the number 4 because my great 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 grandfather was the 4th child. So my number is 4.1.8.1.1.1 because the 4th child, 1st child, 8th child, my grandmother was the first, my mother was the first, and I'm the firstborn. So that number can now go on and on and on and on for all of my children, and they'll be able to trace themselves back to the patriarch of our family. And so that is a system. He created this system for identifying family members, and we have a very large family, hundreds and hundreds of people from ancestors all the way up to now, and then going forward. That's going to live. That he's passed on, but that numbering system has outlived him, and we all know about it. Everyone in the family. We sometimes even sign our emails with our number, right? So it's something that's just like a inside family joke, but that's a system that's going to live forever. And we know he did it, and we know he did it from love of the family and wanting us to keep us together.
That's so lovely. That's so lovely. And when we say people don't really die, that is what it means. So, at least for the people that are listening to us now, you need to ask yourself, what will people remember you for? You see, when you are doing these things, like what Malaika was saying, it's not really because you just sit down and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm doing it for the sake of this. Sometimes you don't even know why you are doing it. Let me give you an instance. In 2012, I started a research project in Verona, which is what I'm still doing today, which led to this podcast. It led to the academy. It led to everything that I'm doing today. But I didn't know then. I just felt I wanted to do this, and I was happy doing it. It's not that I was paid to do it. I wasn't getting anything from it, but it basically have offered me the chance to be able to talk to a lot of people in the world who I will never be able to talk to. I'm talking of professors, politicians, military experts. I'm talking of executives in businesses, people that are poor, to people that control billions of dollars in their asset. I've been able to sit them down and I will talk to them. I will listen to them. I will hear from them. I will learn from them. That little research that I started in Verona in 2012 have made it possible for me. And today, I can see the value in it. But I didn't see, okay, I know that there was value in it then. But I didn't see the depth of it. But today, I can see that. So I am saying that to me, sometimes it might not even be very clear to you in the beginning. But don't worry. If you feel it in you, just do it. Go ahead. You see, you will not see it there. It will not be clear to you in the beginning. But when you travel far and you look back, you can see the reason. That is the only time you see the reason. After. It's not before. Before, you don't see the reason.
Yeah, like, you can't see your footprints in the sand until you take the step, right? So it's interesting that you mentioned that about just doing something that makes you happy. I always say that I serve unapologetically from my zones of joy and genius. We are happiest when we are useful, and that's our genius, when we can do things in our genius, and then also joy. So we hear about your zone of genius quite a bit, I think, but I don't think people concentrate as much on your zone of joy, the things that make you happy. And I think it's very important for us to find that thing that lights us up, that makes us happy. And there are ways to incorporate that into what you do. And that's another thing that I help my clients to do, because I've had clients tell me, I don't know what makes me happy. And I'm like, you sure about that? And most of the time it's because she has forgotten what's made her happy, or she's not concentrating. She's not taking inventory of what makes her happy, or she's belittling it. For example, I had one client who was a very scientific, she was a PhD in chemistry, she was an attorney, she had like very heady, complex days at work. And her secret joy was two things. She loved art, and she hadn't done it in years and years and years. She hadn't picked up a paintbrush in who knows how long. And she loved comedy. Like when she was in college, I think she did like a stand-up or something, and she had pushed that way down because that doesn't pay the bills, right? And so when we started working together, she was frustrated. There was a lot of things going on. She was an attorney doing all these really big cases, and then we started having her work on her joy, not because she was getting paid for it, but because she loved it. So she went and bought an easel. She went and bought paintbrushes. She started painting in the house. And then after some time, she's getting bonuses at work, and things are turning around. And she did not automatically see at first how painting is going to help her at work with her cases. And then she started to see that she was being more of who she was meant to be. And so she was showing up differently at work. And we just don't know until we tap into that thing that brings us joy. So she was using her genius because she was brilliant. She's a brilliant attorney. She was using her genius. She just wasn't using her joy. And so once she started to actually tap into her joy, it all started to come together. So I think we cannot underestimate the power of joy.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah, I love that. There is nothing to add to that. All right, Malaika, I really want to thank you for the time and also for the sharing here. And this is really an in-depth conversation. This is what we do here. Okay, in-depth in the sense that we really pour our heart in it because that is what we feel inside, no? And I believe that it touched people because we connect at an emotional level. That is what we are supposed to do. So I really want to thank you so much. So for people that are listening to us now, tell them how to reach you. That is, I think, the best use of our time also for today.
Yes. Okay. So, if you'd like to schedule some time to speak with me, I'm at momentuslifenow.com. And I believe I can provide you with, for the show notes, I am having a reset event March 18th, where I am walking you through how to reset in whatever's going on. We can get you a small little reset in the direction that you need to go in using the momentology method. And so I'll provide you with the link to that as well. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure being here. Oh, and then I also have that survey, that assessment I was telling you about. It's actually a very quick assessment. It's servantleadertype.com, and it will give you a persona, give you your archetype. It'll tell you how you're showing up in the world. It's completely free. It's just something that I do to help women and others to just pinpoint that awareness of who they're being right now in the world and help to get us to where we want to be.